So, so yeah, we're in a very similar boat to you guys.
Right. Well, let me take a look. Is there like an open link or something? I can
Sure,
take a
sure.
look
Yeah,
at what
happy to
they look
post it.
like. Let
Yep.
me take a
Let
look at
me
the
grab
official
it.
link. Yeah, I got the official links.
Yeah, let
What's
me
the
check.
difference
Should
between the menagerie,
menagerie.
manager, menagerie? Oh, the menagerie and the champions.
So the champions are the human characters. Those are basically the commanders of every team.
Uh huh.
And then the menagerie is like the collection of all the monsters. And so those will
Oh,
be the
okay.
characters that are like fighting within the game.
Oh, I can already see the similarities. Why people suggest we are similar. Because in Apeiron, yeah, you have a main um, avatar, so to speak, and then
hmm
you supplement it with some apostles. Those are the pets we bring along.
Yep,
Oh wow, it's a
exactly.
koala, and with different elements. How many elements are there?
We only have 5, so we're keeping it pretty
Oh,
simple. I
that's
know
good.
some games are going pretty in depth with theirs.
Yeah, I'm going with 4.
4, nice.
Oh, they are rainbow colored
Um,
ones. Do they show?
those are the higher rarity ones. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, so well, and the pre-launch, and you guys are coming up with the game is coming out soon. I heard you say it. So
Yeah,
take
so
a
we
look
just
at
had
the
our dev sync this morning. We're looking at
Mm,
about a month out from like official alpha game release.
mm,
Um, and yeah, it's good. We've got most of our backend logic worked out. It's mostly a matter of getting the UI in there, getting it
oh,
hooked up and looking good.
oh, sounds great.
But yeah,
Okay,
so I'd love to learn.
yeah. Oh, about Apron.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about it. I've heard good things so far, but I'd love to dive deeper into kind of the mechanics and what you guys have been up to lately. You mentioned that you guys have been pretty busy, with community
Yeah.
stuff. So to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a quick run through of what Apron is right now.
Sure.
So, it's a card game at the core. It's also a deck building game. To be honest, we've been developing this for quite a long time now. I mean, been developing this for over 6 years, and
Wow.
we spent almost the first 2 years running around prototypes, around 5 prototypes, 2.5 years, scrapping a lot of ideas. We have you played any COD games in the past, huh, Palmer?
Any what games? I'm sorry.
COD games. COD.
I don't. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, COD game is actually a real genre out there. You can actually Google it, and it's sprang up from a genre of real-time strategy and a simulation. But the God game I'm really trying to recreate here is called Black and White. It's a 2001 PC God game that involves multiple mechanics. Most God games are hybrid games that involve simulation, real-time strategy, role-playing, and some artificial life in there. And so it's been my little passion project to recreate this Black and White with modern technology. You don't see
hmm
a lot of God games nowadays because they're quite hard to recreate, and
Right.
then usually hybrid games are hit or miss, and then so not a lot of publishers or developers want to try on that. But I
Sure.
really like Black and White and COD games. So ever since I decided to start my own game company, I wanted to create something different. So I settled with COD game, and here we are. So we went through multiple prototypes to try and find the right way to balance between battle and simulation on the mobile device. But it was tough, and we had to separate it. So we end up with this model we have right now, where we have got game simulation on one hand and a card-based battle on the other. These are the
hmm
two core mechanics of Apron, and in order to play Apron, you need one planet NFT. We did ourselves over Easter, and uh, and these planets are the ones that you'll need to play the game. So one planet NFT is all you need to play the game. The one planet NFT consists of the planet itself, where the God Game simulation takes place, and a creature, an avatar that grows together with this planet. That's where the battle part of Apeiron takes place. The gameplay is where you juggle between God Game Simulation and battle. In God Game Simulation, you'll be using the four elements to interact with your environment, or your world, which is populated by yellow, chubby chocobo creatures we call dudes. The dudes are rather dumb, but you are there to help them, or to, well, to treat them any way you want, actually. How many trees, rocks, mountains you provide for them will determine how fast they grow, how many population, how many followers you have, and what buildings they will build for you. Every detail, every environment object is will affect the creature's attributes and skills: HP, strength, dexterity, what skills they use in combat, what attributes the armies, the little dudes that follow you into combat will have, will all be affected by how you shape your world. So you'll be juggling between the two modes as you find the right balance. But at the core of this game is also a deck building game, actually, because the battle uses skill cards. It's not turn based. It's actually all in real time. It's sort of like a Clash Royale if you ever played that on mobile.
Oh yeah, great game.
But with Dynasty Warriors, Battleheart, Dungeon Maker mixed into it, so it's a bit of everything. But you can imagine it's a Clash Royale, but with a little action roleplay. So instead of towers, you get moving armies, and that's how you play. One of the main draws of Apeiron is not just the single player experience, but really the multiplayer experience. We actually have 3 tokens, as crazy as it sounds. And the third token is created with multiplayer gameplay, because I think you guys have GVG too, could be as group dynamics, and we think most games that tend to last and last more than at least a year usually focus more on alliance gameplay, social dynamics, and group gameplay. So we have a lot of that, actually. Our game map is actually a universe made up of multiple galaxies, and each galaxy is a giant expansion pack. We have 12 of them planned, and they are giant expansion packs featuring all GVG and GVE contents. And in order to participate in these alliance contents, the player needs to orbit their planets around a sun or a star. So the star and the sun in Apeiron is like the land in other games, and the landowners are the alliance owners, or players who orbit around the stars and suns to form different alliances to participate in these GVG and GVE content. And we are pretty big on those, and especially ones that revolve around esports events as well. And then that's the basic parts of Apeiron. We actually introduced 2 new core mechanics into the equation for the blockchain. One is the roguelike dungeon cycle. It's resets, actually, and the other is breeding. The resets is there for the on-chain function of the blockchain, where players can reset their planets on a weekly basis to earn play-to-earn tokens, to craft gear, or to level up their player account. So much like other roguelike games, the players will go through cycles where they play, they grow their planets, they'll hit a plateau, hit certain levels in the dungeons or in the arenas and stop, and then they can reset and grow a little more powerful each time. When they are at their max levels, there's different venues for them to play, either specializing in the arena play or focusing on resetting the planets to grind those play-to-earn tokens or NFT gear grinding modes. But others have something a bit of everything for everyone, and we don't actually advocate daily resets. We actually advocate a weekly reset. We are on a different model. We think play-to-earn is great, but at the same time, sometimes if you don't have like a really bustling economy, having play-to-earn on a daily basis may be rather dangerous for the economy. So we sort of stretched this out on the single player experience, and we introduced the GVG mechanics and the GVE mechanics to um to incorporate the real win and earn element and the team and earn element. Um, and yeah, we sort of formed a different model there, and we partner with so many gaming guilds. I think we are on 22 right now, and 6 of them is on our seed camp. Those are the pretty large ones, but we have 16 other small to mid-sized ones in our private rounds, all ready to play these different GVG and GVE contents. I jumped and skipped the breeding part. So yeah, breeding is actually one of the main things, funny things that we added for Apeiron pretty late actually,
Mm-hmm.
because well we played a lot of Axie and CryptoKitties and other games, and just the breeding mechanism is a really great technology. We think that really utilizes the NFT ownership idea and the player retail ability as well. So yeah, we came up with this crazy idea to breed planets and call it celestial conjunction. So players can actually mix and merge their decks. It's a great deck building utility and game, which is releasing early next month. For players to play and mix and merge their initial planets to form the ultimate deck they want. And so yeah, we are. As for the roadmap, we ended seed round around 2 weeks ago. We are in the middle of private round right now. Compared to many other games out there, we actually have a much larger investment round. We have a crazier roadmap, I'd say, a very
Mm-hmm.
ambitious one. We're starting out
Mm-hmm.
in Web3 with the gaming guilds and the crypto natives. But in Q1 next year, after a few months after launch, we are going to move pretty big onto the esports. We'll have our anchor hashed host offline and online esports tournaments for us in Korea, offline and online, and then we will move on to a lot of streaming platforms, because in our investment table, besides the gaming guilds and the crypto natives, a lot of them are actually from esports teams or streaming platforms or um, KOLs and esports pro players. That's going to be partnering with us to stream the online contents and the tournaments of Apeiron. After that, we have a little dabble into other physical merchandises and maybe even physical game cards. That's also where our other partners are in our investment table. And the idea is that hopefully, with the Web3 crowds, with the esports crowds, with the physical gaming card crowds and merchandising, we're going to move on to animation shorts and series. So it's moving on to a franchising model. And we have also found some old-time AAA publishers. That's the advisor of Animalca and Guildfire Int. We have some giant developer CEOs in here. Can't name them publicly. And then there's also some CEOs and expo founders of giant streaming platforms that's investing on a personal capacity to help us breach into the Web2 space, so to speak. So yeah, we have a much larger investment round compared to others. We've raised around 17.5 million so far from the seed, pre-seed, and private rounds. Couple that with our NFT sales, we've actually raised over 20 million now. Quite a huge endeavor, and actually we're pretty lucky on this one because I was just so around a week and a half ago, most of the money and funding is in, and I was asking our investors and advisors, so where do I put my stables for the yields? And I think over half of them had Anchor in their suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, that
but I was too busy then because I had to finish up private rounds. And so I never really got to look at it. But my other co-founders, I know about it, but they were never really very bullish on Anchor. So we weren't on. Yeah, so we didn't put it there. Mostly held in cash and some ETA, and then came the event, the Luna thing, and oh my, it was just crappy times. But we were pretty lucky, I guess. And
Right.
then
Yeah. Very lucky.
yeah,
It's
for
just
the team itself, we have quite a lot of people now. Over 40 people in house developing this project, but we outsource around 50 people in Southeast Asia for artwork outsource. One of the major bottlenecks we have over here is actually artwork. Oh, I hear my echo from SCCWT. Oh, thanks for the mute. And so yeah, with the breeding and the reset cycle came pretty late to our development cycle. We only decided to add them in around July last year. So before that, we didn't needed so much variation, but because we're doing it in 3D and in quite a interesting art style, I guess, so it's
oh yeah,
really hectic.
definitely.
And we're like basically trying to onboard new artists or outsource um, artists from around the world to help us create the variety needed for the breeding variations. But
Right.
other than that, the game development is okay because we actually have more front end and back end and technical developers to begin with. Most of my co-founders have actually been around for 10 years before they joined the company. They have even three of them have their own game development companies back in the days, and they're all, well, mostly integrated into our company now. So a lot of them have a lot of experience, but honestly, they're from Hong Kong, actually, most of them. And Hong Kong developers don't really have much funding to create great giant titles themselves. But they have been
Really.
outsourced by, no, Hong Kong is traditionally a financial and a real estate market. So most investors don't
Hmm.
come here to invest in games, in development company. They usually buy stock or real estate. The game developers in Hong Kong are very old school developers that's been co-developing or been outsourced by most of the other giants out there. Even Animalcast that had their roots here, and they have been co-developing games with our co-founders' companies as well. But yeah, a lot of them have a lot of experience. If you guys have not seen our teaser trailers, please take a look. Those are actually not teasers. Those are not cinematics. Those are actual our alphas, our closed alphas. Actually, those are actual gameplay. The quality we're going for is I'd say pretty high, but at the same time, um, it's what's really taxing on our development pipeline right now. But yeah, we're pretty
Right.
comfortable with it. We've spent a lot of time developing this, and we do want to be a bit more protective of the game because there's the franchise, the IP, the licenses, and all the gameplay elements and story elements are very new actually. So we want to be safer. The public testing, we're only doing breeding and battle, the two components that probably require the most testing from other people and from actual players. While the simulation modes and all that, we will release it when the game launches in Q4 this year.
Sure. I
Yeah.
think that's a great schedule and a good approach to handling that rollout. I think phase rollouts are really key in the NFT space in terms
Mm.
of making sure that you're releasing content as it's appropriate. There's a lot of moving
Yeah,
parts and a lot of economic implications, and it can blow up very quickly if you try too much at once.
I know. I've went out the wrong way in the beginning. I released so much stuff in the beginning. I find I have a little material to send out later, and then and yeah, in the beginning we didn't have really much. Let's say the blockchain experience is the least experience we had. So we had our uh, bumps here and there. Employed so many overpriced marketing agencies in the beginning, but But well, yeah, we did learn how our acquisition and everything goes a little bit, and
Sure.
so still trying to learn my way. Pretty much modeled my pitch multiple times now ever since December
Mhm.
first. And but yeah, meeting a lot of different people in the space and really a lot of very interesting um individuals. That's rather promising actually. I actually was super not I was actually not going to partner with any gaming guilds when I first started out here looking for investors. I always thought gaming guilds are just extractors in the economy. So why introduce them into the cap table? Oh boy, my opinion about gaming guilds changed quite drastically over these few months, and I'm like super bullish on several gaming guilds now as well. Oh, but well, we'll see. So how about Monster Champions? How are you guys doing? Have you guys been through all the funding and everything, or are you guys only starting funding and everything after the alpha launch? What's the
Sure.
roadmap over there for you guys?
So we're much smaller and we started much later.
Hmm.
We conceptualized the project. Well, I mean, we've had plans to build a game for about 10 years now, but nowhere near the scale that you've been planning yours.
Hmm.
We just began development in January, and hard development starting in February.
Hmm.
Uh, so a little bit later in the like I guess NFT hype cycle than you guys. And what we found is that most investors, especially right now, are looking for post-launch games that have already put
Hmm.
um, we did a like a private seed round that was small, just enough to get us where we needed to uh, you know
Hmm.
was an unexpected positive. We didn't expect that to be the case when we started talking to them.
Oh,
Um,
I think it's important to maintain a very loyal and healthy community. If you look at mine,
sure.
I have all these bloated numbers from my previous uh, excursions with these marketing companies doing airdrop events. Well, I think airdrops is a good acquisition event. It's just the quality that's hard to control. And then there's
Right.
these whitelist campaigns that's with many groups, so leading to a lot of bot farmers, alt farmers, every kind. But I guess, oh yeah, there are always organic crowds that come through, and it's up to the community to take So we're pretty happy with it, and we still have really yet to really worked with our seed partners. We did everything before the seed round, and it was a funny and interesting endeavor. I guess would love to share more notes with you if I could, but I think you guys are doing everything right. To be honest, the development pipeline, the crowds, and once you have the alpha out, I'm betting a lot of um, the typical investors will be very happy to play test it for you. I think of all the launch pads I've talked to, Engine Starter, Seedify, um, Rainmaker DAO, Game Maker DAO, all of them are stemming from um, from game testers' angle to try out all these games with their communities. But yeah, I guess it's a bit of a double-edged sword for me. I think for giant games, it's well, it takes a certain detour into creating the right UI UX in the middle of game development to take genuine and actionable feedback from the community and investors.
Right.
Um, yeah, but that sometimes may not be the ideal solution for a game of our size.
Sure. Now that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. And speaking of which, I went back and looked at familiar God game titles to see if there were any that
Mm,
I had experienced in the past.
mm,
And so based on your description, I was actually had Spore in my head, and
mm,
that's one that came up here.
mm.
I really enjoyed Spore. So
Sure. Were you?
yeah,
How did you ever reach the Galactic Center?
yeah, I did. It was a long time
Uh,
ago, but
oh,
I did, and that's
which
kind of why
wh-
I thought of you guys is because of that.
which style did you reach? Diplomacy or war?
I was a diplomacy person,
Oh,
which is
awesome.
pathetic. Because why would you
Oh, why
not
would
go
you say
for
that?
war in a game? But
Oh no, most people actually take war because it's the easier path. The diplomacy path is actually the harder path and the good path, and it's good. I like talking to investors who tell me they follow the good path. I used to do this in every pitch because good and evil is an element in our game that's pretty core concept. And every time I ask them about alignments, I usually ask them what their first playthrough was when they played Mass Effect or Fable or Dragon Age or Witcher.
Hmm.
And that's a funny question. But you'll be surprised at how many gamers there are actually in this space. And it's really easy connecting with a lot of these gamers.
Right
That's
there.
now the head of many VC funds, not just gaming guilds, not just
Hmm.
and a lot of launch pads have really hardcore gamers, and they would love to test play many games like that with their communities. So yeah, there's a bit of everything. Would love to chat with you on a more personal basis next time, actually, to
Sure.
learn more
Happy to do that anytime.
about Monster Champions. I think a lot.
Definitely.
This is not the first, not first, because I remember multiple people from my community recommending Monster Champions to me, and I think I should really take a deeper look into this because we have quite a crazy community. Because I have these need to we call it a daddy program. It's like a hobby club I made for the more um committed community members, and we reward them with sugar. And and so a lot of them will do a little research around town to find collabs, and multiple of them told me about Monster Champions. And yeah, I think I really will want to learn a bit more. We
Sure.
do want to work with more projects in terms of a much more longer roadmap in terms of integration into NFT assets and stuff. And
Hmm.
yeah, because I've always told them that I don't claim to be a metaverse, and I don't think it's right to claim to be a metaverse. I think if we stick to the definition of a metaverse, there really should only be one metaverse.
Right.
And
And it's far
developers,
overused.
and I think being fellow developers in this space is actually challenging enough. I think we should developers can really work together and well, it's to work on integration for NFT assets. I think it's beneficial for both. But of course, there's the problem of the artwork uh, adaptability and everything. But I think mutation can can solve a lot of problems just working on artwork for other models and
Sure.
um and the revenue split and the royalty sharing can be discussed pretty openly. Well, of course,
Yeah.
direct access between one NFT to another platform will probably take a much more longer time, given the technology is not available. But we'll see how things go. Oh boy, I think I really like this pet I just saw. Can't have to scroll back and find it.
But
So,
we yeah, we've left quite a bit of room for collaborative efforts with other projects. I'm a firm believer that that's one of the biggest opportunities in the space. As a creator, but also as as a community member, is people want to
mm,
be able to use their stuff across multiple titles. It's a good
yeah,
feeling. Those
that's
crossovers are
yeah.
fun. So our monsters are prepped to be integrated into any game. We're small, so we have no problem pivoting and swapping the art style a little bit to help someone else out. Similarly for our champions, the human characters that I mentioned,
Mm-hmm,
we're designing those so that they don't have to be standalone characters. They're going to have like a little UI window that they exist in. So in
mm,
theory, they could be swapped with any other the PFP style NFT, really any NFT for that matter.
mm.
So yeah, definitely opportunities there to expand, and happy to discuss those more with you as well. In some one-on-ones.
Ooh. So in order to play Monster Champion, I need one human character and how many pets?
So battle will require 4 pets,
Mm.
essentially. Our
Oh,
our ultimate model is to shift to free-to-play opportunity, to where you won't have to buy necessarily a character off OpenSea, and you won't necessarily have to buy monsters off OpenSea. Um, the model
mm,
involves what we're calling like a key system, which essentially lets you bridge assets from either on chain or off chain, back and forth. And so that would allow us to adopt like a free to play model where you can give people assets without them being inherently on chain, and
oh,
disrupting the economy. So,
awesome.
um, so for now and for the early stages of the game, yeah, it will require one human character, the champion, and then 4 monster characters.
Mm. Should I buy all four of the same element, or should I mix it up a little bit?
So that'll be
Ultimately,
personal preference. um, we've got people in
uh,
the community. Everyone's taking slightly different approaches. My
mm,
personal preference is to mix a little bit. So,
mm,
for example, my main character is going to be nature element. I'll probably run with 2 nature monsters, one fire and one water, just
mm.
for balance. Uh, probably the if you're
Ultimately,
more
if
on
I
the
want to whale it in, should I get like 2 or 3 characters and then a multiple set of maybe 4 of each element just to complete my set or something? I'm sorry, I'm
yeah. So most of our
compulsory
whales,
addictive on
sure, no problem.
whaling.
I'm the same way. Most of our whales are looking at about 5 champions, so they've got one for each element.
Mm-hmm.
Well, really, our whales have more than that right now because they're
Uh,
hoarding the airdrops. But um, the
yeah.
yeah, one of each element would be practical for a whale, and then monsters to fill that team. We're gonna have very in-depth burning mechanics for the monsters themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
supply will be deflationary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they burn into each other essentially for marginal
How are
upgrades.
they minted?
So they were initially minted just through the eggs.
Mhm,
But then we're gonna have like a. We actually met in our dev meeting for that today. We're gonna have the like an intermediary wallet where you bridge it off chain to be burned.
mhm,
Um, and so that's what you'll do with like your duplicates and stuff, and those duplicates will be used to power up, existing monsters, or
mhm.
you can, obviously sell your duplicates on the market. And
So
through
how do we get more monsters in the future from gameplay, or will there
yep,
be packs in there?
gameplay exclusively.
Okay.
We're centering almost all of our sinks and spends around participating in the game economy itself.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
we're trying to focus most of our missions towards people who are actually playing the game, not necessarily people who are just, dumping some tokens into the economy and then trying to turn a profit.
yeah.
Um, so keeping it as competitive as possible, but still leaving room for people to just, play the game and enjoy it casually. Um, and so we'll have emissions on a seasonal schedule. Eggs will be emitted through that gameplay a certain amount each season. Um, and then as the seasons turn over, the egg supply will refresh, and the rules around it will change slightly to adjust from season to season. Uh,
Cool.
such as like emission rate, adjusting for increase in players, that sort of thing. It gives us that flexibility to make sure that we're keeping up with the demand, and staying true to our vision for the economy.
That's good. Apeiron follows using the three tokens. We also follow a seasons economy um, to introduce new seasons around one new season a year
Hmm.
to two. And I think it's good to keep things a little fresh like
Definitely.
that. I'm just scrolling through your rarities and my God, how come there's so little
We've
legendary
only had
light
one egg
light?
drop so far.
Okay, need to buy a legendary light and dark ones. They're so rare.
You'll
Well,
supply will increase today as the eggs hatch. Not an insane amount. I checked
mm-hmm.
the ratios earlier. They're not going to be too drastic, but there will be a couple more entering the market, which is good. And then we have one more egg drop after that. And then after that, it'll be available in game only.
Actually quite cool. So there's 400 owners and 8,000 items. You must have a lot of very loyal holders. That's
Yes, true.
ready to assemble their crowds. That's quite awesome.
Definitely.
In our NFTs, everyone is pretty much holding on to three planets, three NFTs because everyone wants to breed it out.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
Sure.
It's good. This is awesome. And
I did have one question about that.
yeah.
So you mentioned that you've got them. It's almost reminiscent of like a land play where you have,
Hmm.
you have to orbit them. Um,
Hmm.
and so you have essentially guilds forming around certain like suns, correct?
Um, Guilds forming around
Or alliances,
constellations.
maybe.
Yeah,
Okay. Yep.
alliances. Yeah.
And then is there anything that prevents like is that invitation based? I'm not as familiar with the actual mechanics of it.
No,
Or could someone like
it could
sabotage?
be. There could be both, actually,
Hmm.
but most likely in the beginning you'll just be finding stars to orbit, much like any other games or land system. There can be invitation based, open invitation, or other types that can search on the guild or the alliance page.
Hmm.
Um,
So
the
it's
main thing
not.
about these. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna say. So currently, it's not like a limited supply mechanic where there's a limited number of stars, and so people are
It's
like rushing
limited.
to claim them. Oh,
It
okay,
is
very cool.
limited. There's only 11,498 stars in the game map, and
Very nice.
they form around the galaxies. So
Hmm.
they bunch up into multiple stars join to form a constellation, and the constellations revolve around different galaxies or certain parts of the game map, and
Yeah,
you can
very cool.
purchase them. And well, we introduced a pretty interesting idea of aging in our gameplay as well, in our NFTs. NFTs are aging as we speak at around
Mhm.
1 day a year. And so it's been almost 1 month now, and so they're all 30 years old. The older the planet gets, the more equipment, so to speak, we call that relic slots, you can equip on them. You can install relics onto your planets. So um, players will want to age their planets in order to install more relics and trades onto their planets. In order to age faster, you can orbit them around a star. As you join alliance and orbit your planet around the sun, the gravity sort of speeds up time and everything. So you can speed
Right.
up the aging process, or you can directly consume other planets. So usually in these breeding games, there will often be these undesirable builds, breeds
Hmm.
with a less viable game deck, so to speak. So usually in other games, these will be sitting there or be consumed at a much cheaper price. But in Apeiron, the older it gets, for example, even the least desirable planet will be more desirable after maybe a year or two as they sit on the on the marketplace aging. When they reach over 400 or 500 years old, the other planets, the viable deck, will need to age their planets significantly, sometimes for the clan wars or for special events, or just to level up a new viable deck you got. You can actually consume the less desirable planets that's sitting there aging away to significantly enhance the age of the desirable planet. It's a little burn mechanism we do for the planets and for our play to earn tokens and to play a little bit onto the star uh, alliance system. And yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's very well thought out. I love that mechanic, and that's something that I think is essential, especially in your style of gameplay. Is you
Yeah.
have to cover that opportunity for people to utilize those less desirable, uh,
Yeah.
you know,
mm,
like units, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. And for the well, they're pretty great for the scholars, I guess. So
Hmm.
most scholars can rent, or most planet owners can rent their planets out. Do you guys do any renting? I think that there should be uh for the heroes at least. Is there something like
Hmm.
that in Monster Champions?
Yeah, so we have a system called we're calling it the Alliance system, where you can rent or loan out your so rather than champions, the human characters, which basically just provide a passive buff to your
Mm-hmm.
entire team. So they're kind of just like a staple. The monsters are the more unique ones with different abilities, and so those are what you would see more likely as being rented out. More
I
recently, we've
see.
been looking into like a grouping model where rather than renting out just a champion or just a monster, you're renting out an entire team essentially. So like
Mm-hmm.
one champion paired with four specific monsters.
Mm.
I think there's a lot more opportunity there for players to create desirable renting builds and stuff like that.
And there are already entire. I can already think of 3 to 4 scholarship tools that do that.
Right, exactly.
Have you talked to
There's
any
good
of them?
support for it.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's quite a lot.
yeah, we've got some conversations that we're starting with Polemos.
Oh,
Poles. I don't know how to pronounce them.
Tolamos,
Um,
yes.
yeah,
That's an entirely win to earn gaming guild, right?
right. Hmm.
Yeah.
They I've seen some good things that they're developing on their end that I'm interested in looking into. I think it's great that people are starting to branch out into developing that sort of infrastructure, whether
Mm-hmm.
they have a game of their own or not. So yeah,
I'm
if
super
you have
bullish
any
on
that you're following
Polamos.
closely. Hmm.
Polamos is
Sure.
in our seed round.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they don't invest in many games, and they have a
Hmm.
very crazy crowd. The quality of their
Yes.
scholars is on a different league compared to other gaming guilds out there.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, it would be great if you guys want to partner with them. and we actually had some game nights past with Polaris. And then I was going to ask something. Well, before I ask that, the group lending things, there's actually a group. Yeah, there's a group lending thing. It's not just group scholarship rentals. It's about grouping up all these teams and getting loans. That's a thing here that's going on. I'm not very sure about this one, but yeah, apparently there's 2 or 3 companies I spoke with that do these ETH loans based on
Hmm.
a group of assets. But anyway,
Interesting.
what I really want to ask is, so how does I saw the GVG. So how does GVG?
We have a couple propositions for the GVG structure. Myself and Zach, my co-founder, we've played a lot of games in the past, mostly on mobile, and they've all had the same core GVG structure, but
Mm-hmm.
the nuances between each game are the ones that we're iterating through to see which one we think is the best. What I do know we will have for GVG is so you'll be in a guild with a bunch of other players. Obviously, you'll fight against other guilds.
Mm-hmm.
It'll mirror our PvP structure to where you're picking a target in the opposing guild and fighting against them in like a real time 4v4 battle.
Mm,
Um, and it'll have like the same mechanics as a standard PvP battle. The difference is that there will be some challenges to the guild structure as a whole. Most notably, your team will have, or your guild will specify like a wall breaker on your team, and the opposing guild will specify like a defender, like a primary defender.
mm,
You cannot challenge anyone else in the opposing guild until you have broken past their lead defender.
mm,
So it creates, and that one will probably have to be automated because as a defender, it would be very challenging
mm,
to play a bunch of real time battles. But perhaps we'll leave the option for them to play real time, and if they don't respond in a certain time frame, it'll be auto. But essentially, you have to break past their primary defender before you can go attack the rest of their team.
mm,
So create some interesting opportunities for guilds to share resources and do the best that they can to bolster their, strongest player for both the
mm,
attacking and defending side. And then we'll have sort of like a captain and sub-captain structure where they'll be awarded more points for taking down, the high value targets in each guild, stuff like that. And then of course a leaderboard system, ranking system, to make sure that there's some merit in defeating other guilds, and then a reward system based on that.
mm, Okay, imagine that already. Well, it sounds pretty fun. Actually, it reminds me a little of somehow of Heroes of Might and Magic. Somehow I don't know why, but yeah. For our GVG, we are probably will want to move on to co-op modes later. But we'll start with a pretty boring clan wars mode first. So pretty much similar to the COC and the Clash Royale modes,
Hmm.
where it's
Nice.
different planets listed on other sides, and you have to pick the ones you guys have to fight. So it's more on a single player basis, where you pick the other ones. But co-op modes will be introduced later, 2v2s, and then you can actually 2 players can participate, up to 4 players can participate in the same map, and then we move on to 3, and then to 5, and the moment we reach 5, we will move on to a more even. Well, we haven't prototyped this. We've prototyped the co-op mode for 2v2 and 3v3, but we haven't prototyped the actual LOL mode, which would be quite hectic actually. And but yeah, we have co-op modes, but co-op modes is more a technical um problem than a game design problem, because it's just real time using card based action, and at the
Right.
graphic quality we are going for, it's the fairness that's the problem sometimes.
Yeah, that
And
can be very, very challenging. It's one of the, benefits per se that we have as a 2D game is it's much more cut and dry or simplistic to run in
Yeah,
real time.
that's good actually. I think 2D is just momentary for you maybe, because
Mhm.
I think if you guys develop more in the metaverse and you really joined a metaverse or another game similar, I think you guys can easily port over anytime. Just build the fundamental rules down as concrete as possible, make it fun, and the graphic styles can come later.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
then for the other GVE modes we have, it's modeled highly similar to world bosses and dungeon raids actually in the future,
Mm.
where
Mhm.
different elements and different um, combination styles each have their own advantages, and it would take like vanguards and rear guards positions for different players to take up to fight in these dungeons and raids. It's pretty interesting, but I haven't divulged too much because the wanted to really show this when the video is out.
Sure.
So
That's
yeah,
great.
just staying on the more safer side, I guess, of development for the GVG modes. Sticking with single player modes first, because after all, I think this is the one concern I have after listening to your GVG as well, is how the the game rules can balance between single player PvP and then turning it into GVG. Well, if we treat it as two different card sets, then that's probably a problem solved. But I
Right.
guess my initial lazy self would always be trying to go for the the higher rarity cards and see if I can complete everything over there without needing to invest in too many. But I guess that would be not possible, because ultimately, well, as game developers and game designers, I think there needs to be some against player elements that can't make their lives too easy for everyone. Would love to see how that plays out. I saw this game earlier that they have this this GVG element, and on the game map there's NFTs walls that you can build on the game map
Huh.
to and there's air units and land units, and if you have walls on these GVG game maps, repairable or irreparable, it makes for pretty and they can't move still, so I'm not sure how to integrate with you. But the wall element plays a pretty interesting angle. It's similar to how you guys do it, but if the wall is an NFT, it actually presents well interesting dynamics. It doesn't have to be um, it could be crafted, these GVG elements, and then it helps the alliance um, have something to work towards. And because in our GVG mode, in our team based mode, ultimately it's how the alliance contributes resources as a team together to
Right.
fight better in the GVG, and we have staking and liquidity pool staking mechanisms and items, because most of these pools usually only feed back to the token itself, which was really very hard to not dwell into Ponzinomics over there. Um, but if there are other items that's usable in other game modes, for example, from single to the governance token and play-to-earn tokens can be staked to create something beneficial for the guild or alliance content, and from there we can build together, and then from the alliance tokens we can stake and get something from the single player experience that feeds back to the initial breeding cycles for the deck building purposes. It goes after a cycle or circle, so to speak, to where you get one token, stake it, and enhance the play on another side, and so everyone gets to play it and sell it in the markets, create better dynamics, I guess. Ooh, would
Right.
love
No,
to
I agree
more
entirely.
more. So yeah, we're still working on it. I think one token, two token, or three token models can all ultimately work actually, depending on the game complexity and how the developers tend to keep things fresh, so to speak. But yeah, I'd just like to try with more tokens. It's just the math guy back in me and my co-founder that likes to work with more variables to create balances.
Sure.
Ah, wow. I think things are going to happen pretty quickly for you guys. I think this is actually well, I think it sounds a little bad to say this, but this is a great time for developers to build and to really focus on getting the product out. And then
Sure.
hopefully when the market recovers a little bit, hopefully soon, not as skeptical as most other people are, because I was actually talking to the centralized exchanges and all top five exchanges. I mean, Binance, FTX, KuCoin, OKX, and Coinbase all advise that they are not well. They don't mind listing, but they are not very um, supportive on any IEOs these 2 months, and a lot
Hmm.
of investors straight up shut off any investment in 2 months. But I guess it's just the sentiment at the bottom of the hopefully the bottom of the market. It's not very
Right.
much my content post and traumatized right now. Most of them are. Hopefully something would be announced over there. I'm pretty surprised actually they didn't announce anything yet. I'm always checking whether they're announcing something. It's surprising that they seem to be sort of entirely given up the entire chain. Oh boy. Mm. Did you guys dip your toes in any of these Lunar Terra things?
No, we thankfully did
Mm.
not. We no, we kept it simple. We're ETH and USD, and that's
Oh,
all.
awesome.
Um,
Awesome.
so yeah, maybe if we had like more like significant like initial sales, or we're working with a more serious amount of money, then maybe yield farming would make a little bit more sense. But for where we are currently, we just want to retain current capital and make sure that we're
Mm.
utilizing it properly towards our game.
Well, that's great. So how many people do you have now on your team?
We're in like the 15 to 20 range, but the core team is about 10. So we've got, uh, I'll have to look. I lose track of how many developers we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 if I count
Mm.
myself. And then we've got 3 primary artists, a couple game strategists. We've got
Mm.
tokenomics,
Good.
Nat. Um, but yeah, so um, a modestly sized team for, you know, compared to what some of these other projects have. But
Mm-hmm.
for the size of our project, I'd say it's a relatively large team.
Oop. I think it's pretty decent. Are you guys based in the States mostly?
We're kind of spread out all over. A
Mm.
majority of the team's based in the States. We've got
Mm.
developers in Europe, Asia. Um,
Well,
yeah, so
awesome.
the only outsourced component of our team is our VFX. Everyone else is internal, which
Awesome.
is good. Spoke with a
That's good.
project recently, and like 90% of their team is outsourced, which very practical for cost reasons. But in the NFT space, our
Mm.
preference obviously is to have everyone internal.
I think for most games, it's preferable to have internal where everyone. For some artwork outsource, depending on the quantity,
Right.
outsourcing is okay. But for game development, I guess it's the game design and the game programmer, especially the front end. Well, pretty much both front end and back end should be done in house. Back end most
Agreed.
definitely. Front end, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just good luck finding the ideal UI UX artist. So hard to find.
That is literally the one role that we're hiring for at the moment, is UI UX. We've got, like bare bones what we need, but
Mhm.
like Crypto Unicorns is an example of a game that I think has really nailed their UI UX. Everything just
They
looks so appealing.
they
Um,
have Crypto Unicorn is one of the most bullish products. From the tokenomics to the gameplay to the graphics and art style, I'm super bullish on that one. And
No, I think it's great.
yeah,
But yeah,
but yeah,
that's funny you mentioned that.
I am I love their it's it's not exactly new or that, but they have all they found the ideal mix of casual gaming with well, of course, unicorns, and the tokenomics is very it's very solid. It's stealthy and bitcrafts in the works,
hmm
and those guys are pretty good. They've gained a lot of experience over the years, and they've built very proven models, and coupled with a solid gameplay from Crypto Unicorns, I think it would be really great. They just have to get the testing and the initial phases done, and so they can loosen up on the cooldowns and everything, and then it will become a really fun and addictive mechanism. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
it's just the times are a little crazy, but they got their token sales and everything done and locked in the vault and couple launch. So it's good. It's good for them. Would love to meet the team someday, and the developers are all veterans in the field. So
hmm
yeah. Actually, what's your background? I'd love to learn a bit more about you before I go. Do you mind
I'm
sharing?
young.
Oh,
Sure.
how
No,
young?
happy to talk about it. I'm young, 25. Most
You're not that young.
recently, yeah, relatively, but maybe not super young. I wouldn't consider myself a veteran. Um, but I spent the last about 9 months now working with Crypto Raiders. It's a project on the Polygon
Oh,
network. Um,
oh yeah.
so
Actually, a lot of people recommended crypto rages to me as well. They are
sure.
very they're also another Delphi and Bitcraft product. Not Bitcraft, maybe just Delphi. But yeah, it's a very interesting design. And but yeah, I just the only thing I found lacking over there is just everyone wants to be the monster. No one really wants to buy the radar. But
Right.
love to see how the tokenomics evolve over there. Would be quite interesting.
Sure.
Well,
They're
nine
doing
months of
some
crypto radar.
they're doing some advanced reworks right now, and from what I've seen, they're very impressive. I'm excited to see
Mm.
what they end up cooking up.
Oh, and then so you went from crypto readers to here. But
Yep.
how about before that? Were you in college or something? Or did you work in something else?
So I was in college. I have a bachelor's in cybersecurity, and then I got my master's in information systems and management.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so had fun in college. Made some good connections, and then when I got to this point, after kind of cutting my teeth at Crypto Raiders, I sat down and I was like, okay, I need to put together a really good team, and we need to build a really good game. And so then I went out and I found the best advice I got is find people who are better than you at everything that you think you're good at. So I hired
That's from
developers who
expert.
could develop way better than me. I
Uh,
hired designers who were way above me in terms of concept and especially in terms of on the art side. Uh,
hmm
I can't do any of that. But yeah, so um, after a couple months, I looked up and I was like, wow, I actually found found some really heavy hitters. Um,
Oh,
but yeah,
that's
so it's been fun.
important.
But
What
it
I
does
learned from
feel
the
a little
other
weird.
veterans is what game projects come and go, but it's the development team that's improving and gaining experience.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they told me to cherish the developers that you come across. But I run on a different model. I'm also very inexperienced. Actually, I was in private equity and management consulting before this, and always only a gamer at heart, never really a developer. But I guess I end up with a good mix. most of the people that I met and the developers are really passionate individuals who sacrificed a lot, because in Hong Kong and in many of these traditional Chinese families, most people deem game development as a vice. And so a lot of people work on game development. It's just typical Hong Kong Chinese mentalities to work to special to do something in the banking and the financial or real estate sectors. So game
Sure.
developers, they don't get a lot of funding. They also don't get a lot of income, but they're very tough as nails when it comes. They stay in the industry for a long time, and they do what they love. And really underpaid, if you ask me, for the really good ones. And so yeah, I met quite a lot of them, and was quite lucky to run into some individuals. Some individuals, one of the best artists, took me 3 years to find. Actually, I met them in the beginning, but usually artists have their own aspirations in the beginning, and they were quite recognized at a young age, and so they were employed by other giant companies and developers around Asia before they circled back to me. And at the moment I got my hands on them, our arts really flourished. And so yeah, it's a bit of everything. I'm glad you found a team early, but yeah. I think that's about it for me, though, during this time. I think next time let's do a proper game night or an event and make it a little more official, so we can get more of our community here to play some events together.
Sure. Happy to do it. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, we're planning on roadmap. Oh my God, when you get to the seed round funding, you'll be you'll be you'll be sorely missing these days. I tell you, Palmer. Seed round funding and crypto is it's quite an experience, and you just find yourself really swamped every day. I was in private equity. I really see projects. I think I see around 10 projects a day back in the hype. But oh my, crypto fundraising is just another monster. It's exhausting, but it's really very interesting. Oh, can't wait to see you over there. I bet you'll do fine. Just
Thank you.
reading your white paper, and everything is very solid. I think that's your experience from crypto raiders and your research speaking. So yeah,
Thank you.
I'll be sure to support you guys and do more events and AMAs. And if you guys need help promoting over here or work on some early NFT models, well, just hit me up directly. I'll leave my contact you, or you can DM me in Discord to
Sure.
find me. Yeah.
Yeah. I
And if you
also
need introductions to gaming guilds or to the really good ones, I think I can introduce really good ones to you. There are just so many VCSOs in this space, but they are also great builders in the space that provide really genuine help and very hands-on good advice. And I really love to recommend some of them to you if you don't mind meeting a few more of these guys a little earlier. Um,
sure.
yeah. Well,
That'd be great. Always open to meeting more people and growing the connections out here. So
oh
yeah,
yeah,
definitely throw anyone
I
my
say that all
way.
the time as well. All right. Well,
Fantastic.
nice meeting you, Palmer. And until next time, if you want to meet
Likewise.
anyone early or when you want to get seen around early, just hit me up. I am well, I like sharing resources and
Sure. Sounds
sharing
good.
people I think will do great in the space, not just VC oriented people. So yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Palmer, and what a nice server you have here. Really want to see it grow, and let's see how things can go. All right. I want to
Perfect.
thank the
Thank you.
ones who recommended your channel to me. Well, thank you, and have a great day. And I'll just head back to do a little more work before I sleep. All right.
Awesome.
Well,
Sounds
thanks
good.
for your
Take
time,
care.
Palmer. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Farewell. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll have another AMA in a little bit on Twitch, specific to Monster Champions. So, uh, don't have to stay in here for that, but we'll be announcing it later. I think it's in about 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yo.
Or 2 hours. Let me check.